why she was called the most beautiful woman in the world. But behind her enchanting gaze, she carried a secret, a mind so brilliant it would one day help to shape the wireless future we live in today. This is the untold story of Hedy Lamarr, the Hollywood star, who gave the world the foundation of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS, yet spent most of her life unrecognized for her genius. To truly understand her extraordinary journey, we must go back to a time before Hollywood, before the fame, before the world would come to know her as a screen siren, back to Vienna in the year 1914. Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler was born on November 9, 1914, in Vienna, Austria, a city of music, innovation, and artistic brilliance. Her father, Emil Kiesler, was a wealthy banker with a passion for technology. Her mother, Gertrude, was a concert pianist who filled their home with melodies of Brahms and Beethoven. From the very beginning, Hedy was different. She wasn't just captivated by the glamour of her mother's piano or the world of society her parents belonged to. She was fascinated by how things worked. At just 5 years old, she would take apart her music box to see the gears move inside. At 10, she was tinkering with household objects, wondering how machines spoke to each other. But this was not an ordinary childhood. Europe was on the brink of catastrophe. The First World War had just begun. And while Vienna was still a place of art and opera, shadows of conflict loomed across its streets. Hedy grew up hearing two languages, the refined tones of classical music and high society, and the darker whispers of war and revolution. By her teenage years, it was clear Hedy wasn't just beautiful. She was exceptional. At 16, she enrolled in the Max Reinhardt Seminar in Vienna, one of the most prestigious acting schools in Europe. She was a natural performer, elegant, poised, and magnetic. Yet even then, she maintained her love of invention, sketching ideas, mechanisms, and concepts for machines in her notebooks after class. In 1930, at just 16, Hedy landed a small role in a German film. By 1933, she would star in the controversial film Ecstasy, a work that would bring her international attention and scandal. The film's reputation followed her everywhere, and while it would help her land roles, it would also cast a shadow over her career. But Hedy wasn't afraid of shadows. She had bigger dreams, and an even bigger secret. She was already thinking about inventions, even as the world saw her only as a starlet. But this was just the beginning. The world was about to change forever, and Hedy Lamarr was about to trade the gilded halls of Vienna for the blinding lights of Hollywood. Yet even as her fame grew, her mind remained on something far greater, the inventions that would one day change the world. By the mid-1930s, Vienna was no longer the artistic haven it had been in Hedy's childhood. Europe was slipping toward darkness, fascism was rising, and Hedy was about to be trapped in a world far more dangerous than any Hollywood drama. In 1933, at only 19 years old, Hedy married Friedrich Mandl, one of the richest men in Austria, a powerful arms manufacturer whose company supplied weapons to Mussolini and Hitler. At first, the marriage seemed glamorous, opulent parties, magnificent estates, but Hedy would soon learn she had walked into a gilded prison. Mandl was controlling, possessive. He forbade her from acting. He kept her under watch, escorting her to lavish parties where political leaders and military strategists gathered. Yet it was here, in the midst of high society and war talk, that Hedy made her most unexpected observations. As generals and scientists discussed radio-controlled weapons, she listened. She studied. She remembered. And though she appeared to be just a silent, beautiful wife, she was learning secrets of military technology that few civilians could even imagine. By 1937, Austria was preparing for annexation by Nazi Germany. Life under Mandl had become unbearable, a mixture of luxury and imprisonment. That year, Hedy made her decision. She would escape or die trying. Disguised as a maid, she slipped past guards in the middle of the night, fleeing her husband's fortress-like home. She left behind her jewels, her mansion, and the life of control, but carried something far more valuable, the knowledge of military radio systems that would later inspire one of her greatest inventions. From Austria, she fled to London, a city bracing for the coming storm of war. And it was here, at a glamorous dinner party, that Hedy met a man who would change her destiny, Louis B. Mayer, head of MGM Studios in Hollywood. Mayer saw not just a beautiful woman, but a star, waiting to be born. He offered her a contract and a one-way ticket to America. On the voyage to America, Mayer advised her to reinvent herself, to become more than Hedwig Kiesler. By the time she arrived in Hollywood, she had a new name, a name that would shine on billboards across the world, Hedy Lamarr. In 1938, Hedy stepped onto American soil, a refugee, a survivor, and soon a star. MGM wasted no time, presenting her as the most beautiful woman in the world. And the world believed it. What they didn't know was that behind the beauty was an inventor who would one day revolutionize communications technology forever. Hedy Lamarr had escaped tyranny, crossed an ocean, and transformed into a Hollywood goddess. But the true test of her genius was yet to come, as the world plunged into the fires of World War II. Hollywood, a dream factory where legends are born. For Hedy Lamarr, this was the stage which her reinvention began from a young Austrian actress, running from a life of control to a dazzling star lighting up America's silver screens. When Hedy arrived in the United States, she had more than just a new life ahead of her. She had a new name. Studio head Louis B. Mayer, always a master of image, saw her as a diamond in the rough. He renamed her Hedy Lamarr, elegant, mysterious, unforgettable. Her first major appearance came in 1938 with Algiers. The film captivated audiences, but it wasn't just her beauty. There was something haunting about her presence, a quiet intelligence behind her eyes. Hollywood adored glamour, but Hedy brought something different, an old-world sophistication that made her stand out among the rising stars of the era. Over the next few years, she starred in a string of successful films, including Boomtown and Comrade X. She became one of MGM's most bankable actresses, drawing comparisons to screen goddesses like Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich. But beneath the spotlight, Hedy carried a secret. Unlike many of her peers, she spent her evenings not at glamorous parties, but working at a drafting table in her home sketching inventions, tinkering with mechanical designs. She once said, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." But Hedy wanted more, to be remembered not just for her beauty, but for her mind. Yet Hollywood had its own kind of prison. Despite her fame, Lamarr often found herself typecast exotic roles, femme fatales, mysterious strangers. Rarely did she receive the complex parts that matched her intellect. Off-screen, she navigated failed marriages and a restless search for purpose, sensing that her legacy could not rest on beauty alone. While the world knew Hedy Lamarr as a star of the silver screen, few realized that by night, she was quietly engineering ideas that could change the course of history. It was the early 1940s. World War II raged across Europe and the Pacific. Nations fought not just with soldiers and weapons, but with innovation. Hedy, haunted by her memories of Austria and her escape from a controlling husband who supplied arms to the Nazis, wanted to make a difference not as a movie star, but as an inventor. Lamarr began collaborating with George Antheil, a composer and fellow innovator. Together, they developed a radical idea, a system that could guide torpedoes using radio frequencies, but with a twist. Their invention, frequency-hopping spread spectrum, would allow signals to switch between channels, making it nearly impossible for enemy forces to jam or intercept them. In August 1942, the pair received a patent for their secret communication system. But despite its groundbreaking potential, the Navy considered it impractical at the time. They set it aside, unaware that decades later, their invention would form the foundation of modern technologies like Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. Despite her contributions, Lamarr's work went largely unnoticed during her lifetime. The entertainment world celebrated her beauty, but history would one day honor her mind. Hedy Lamarr was more than a star. She was an inventor ahead of her time, a visionary who saw the future long before it arrived. As the golden age of Hollywood began to fade, so too did the spotlight on Hedy Lamarr. But while the world moved on, her unseen invention quietly grew closer to changing it forever. By the late 1950s, Lamarr had starred in more than 30 films. Yet, as younger stars rose, her roles dwindled. The glamorous starlet who had once been called the most beautiful woman in the world now found herself struggling to find work. Decades later, as the world entered the digital age, Lamarr's 1942 patent was dusted off and studied again. Engineers realized that her frequency-hopping concept wasn't just innovative, it was revolutionary. The technology formed the backbone of modern wireless communications, spanning GPS navigation, Bluetooth connectivity, and the Wi-Fi that powers our digital lives today. In 1997, the Electronic Frontier Foundation finally honored Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil with the Pioneer Award, recognizing their contribution to technology more than half a century after their invention. That same year, Lamarr, then 82, received the WWII Spirit of Achievement Award, often called the Oscars of Invention. She did not attend the ceremonies in person, but when told about the honors, she simply replied, "It's about time." Despite her groundbreaking legacy, Lamarr lived her later years near seclusion in Florida. She rarely gave interviews, choosing instead to reflect on her life away from the limelight. She passed away on January 19, 2000, at the age of 85. Yet, even in death, her story refused to fade into obscurity. The world was finally ready to see her, not just as a star, but as a visionary. Today, every smartphone call, every GPS route, every wireless connection owes something to Hedy Lamarr's forgotten genius. Her journey from Hollywood stardom to scientific brilliance reminds us that true innovation often comes from the most unexpected minds. She once said, "The world isn't getting any easier." With all these new inventions, I believe that people are hurried more and pushed more. But if I can help make things better, then I have done my job. If you like the journey of Hedy Lamarr's, then please comment, like, and don't forget to subscribe for interesting lives of legends. Thank you for watching. Love you all.